I know that you had a very interesting second season with the team, and uh, how was the experience? What was it like this year?
Well, it was a unique year. We lost our offensive coordinator that we worked with in the off season, lasted 9 days and got fired. So
Okay.
we had to quickly regroup in training camp and started out 1-7, and we had a Heisman Trophy winner. Troy Smith was playing quarterback and was struggling, and so we had to replace him. And we ended up getting to the Eastern Finals. It was the first time in the 102-year history of the league that a team that was 1-7 ended up with a winning record.
Wow.
And so in some ways it was remarkable the way we finished. And unfortunately, we came came a touchdown away from getting to the Grey Cup. But all in all, it was quite a year, quite interesting.
Great. How was that run that you had? Because I remember looking at the standings and thinking, "Whoa, the team's having a tough time." And then I don't know, a month later, looking back and thinking, "Whoa, hold on, the team's. I think you were 8-8."
Right. Well, I think our head coach did a great job. We were 1-7. We have 10 more games. Fortunately for us, at that time, nobody in our conference, which is the Eastern Conference, was really doing great.
Yeah.
So we were only a couple games out of first place, and all we had to do, most of our games coming up were going to be against the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
And so we're going to play those guys. So we had a chance to catch up. Mathematically, it wasn't impossible. So we just kind of broke it down to a 10-game season, and we figured, hey, we got to win at least 7 of these to get into the playoffs. And we ended up going, I believe we went 8-2 in that time.
Yeah.
And so, it all worked out. But I thought, really, we just took it one game, and that's the whole cliche of one game at a time. But breaking it down into a bite-sized piece, where instead of looking at where we were,
Yeah.
we kind of just said, hey, we're starting the season today, and we won that game, and then we were 2-0, then we were 3-0, then we were 4-0, and I think from a psychological standpoint, our guys really bought into that.
Yeah. Yeah. It must have been a good feeling once you did get on that roll.
That was a great feeling. I mean, winning is a great deodorant. Everything's better when you win.
Yeah. When you're losing, the games always seem longer, and the victories are always quite brief.
Absolutely.
And what about the two playoff games that you had?
Well, we played a home playoff game, and the last game, the 18th game of the season, we had to win that. We had to win it by, or we could have lost it even by less than 7 points. We would have had a bye. We would have had 2 weeks to get ready for the playoff game.
Okay.
And we would have played at home. But we lost to Hamilton, the Hamilton Tiger Cats,
Yeah.
27-18 or something. So they got the bye. So we played the next week against the British Columbia Lions, which is a good football team. We beat them 50-7 or 50-17 or something.
Yeah.
And we had one of our best games of the year. And we were on a roll, but we had to go back to Hamilton and play in the championship game for the Eastern Final.
Yeah.
And again, it was a close game, but they returned. The difference was they returned 2 punts for touchdowns and ended up beating us by 2 touchdowns. Otherwise, it was a pretty close game. And so our special teams kind of cost us that day, but overall, it was really pretty exciting, and I think our team pushed it as far as they could.
Yeah. Yeah. And for your second year in the league, how much have you enjoyed being part of the CFL?
Well, I think the CFL is really an interesting. I think they're really an interesting league. I really like the rules, especially in the special teams. I think it's exciting. I think it's in some ways safer than down in the United States. I'm not a big fan of 2 downs.
Okay.
First down as opposed to that's one thing that basically it's 2nd and 10 every time you get the ball.
Yeah.
Which I think hurts the run game a little bit. But all in all, I think it's a great league. I think it's kind of neat that you have to have a certain amount of Canadians on the team, and you have to start a certain amount of Canadians. And so, obviously the Canadian players are some really good ones, but for the most part, they're kind of Division II, Division III type of players.
Yeah.
And then you've got all these, Division One ex-NFL guys playing together. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that the CFL. With in pro football, there's a lot of things that are really neat about it, but there's a lot of things I didn't like. You just you got a lot of layers of bureaucracy. It's hard to bench a player if you want because you got to go through the general manager and things like that are just different. I wasn't used to, and so all in all, it's been a great experience. But it's again, there's good and bad everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Do you see players who have come from the US going through a learning curve because of the difference with the rules, or is it a case that football's football and they just get on with it?
I think it depends who you talk to. If you talk to the Americans, they don't think it's that big a deal. If you talk to the Canadians, they think it is a big deal.
Right.
I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think, there's some basic rules that could kind of blow your mind that are you just have to get used to. Most of them are special teams. But, for example, the defensive line cannot line right up on the ball. They have to be a yard off. That takes some getting used to.
Okay.
And, but basically football's football. I think you can learn the rules. I mean, I think you become a functional player in 2 or 3 practices. You got it.
Yeah, yeah. And how about the team for next season? How is that looking? I mean, will there be a lot of players who are free agents and ready to move on, or are they going to look to stay and re-sign?
Well, it's hard to, one of the things in Canada is a lot of teams are building new stadiums. Hamilton built a new stadium, and Ottawa built a new stadium.
Yeah.
And Winnipeg has a new stadium. It's becoming a little bit like Division One football in the sense that everybody's trying to one up everybody.
Right.
And so Montreal's got some challenges ahead of it. I think I read we had 17 free agents, and so
right.
I think that it's going to be tough for. I think Montreal, we've got our work cut out for us, like all the teams. Everybody's going to try to, everybody's got free agents, and at the end of the day, pro football is a business, and it comes down to dollars and cents, and no matter how popular you're or liked you are, it's a business, and so at the bottom, at the end of the day, there's some guy with a pencil who's got to make all that add up, and so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, yeah. In the time that you've been there, have you seen the growth of, apart from the stadiums, have you seen that there's more going on with the league?
Well, they just signed a new labor contract, which is good. So they got some stability for the players. They just signed a new TV contract, which doubled the amount of capital that the owners have to work with on salaries. So
okay.
So the league's in pretty good shape, and it's all the games are televised. There's a good fan base, so it's in better shape today than it probably has ever been, to be honest. And so hopefully they can keep that going.
Excellent. And when does everything restart? How much of an off season do you have?
Well, they give you a couple months off, and then we'll start. Probably in January they start. The coaches start work on playbook and film, and then they, get ready for the draft. They draft the Canadian players, and so there'll be an off season. They'll have a 3 or 4 day mini camp somewhere. Last year we had it in Florida, and
right.
So it's just it kind of we get a few weeks off, and then everybody gets going again.
Yeah, that's great stuff. And are you really looking forward to next year, or are you right now you're just in the mode to relax and enjoy the off season?
Well, we've been going since June 1st. We had 22 games.
Right.
So I'm kind of excited about just taking a deep breath here for a few weeks
yeah.
and getting going again.